Good evening, humans. Tyrannosaurusmoth here, and welcome to another episode of PlastiCombat. This is the series where I take a look at two figures who have something very relevant in common and help you decide whether you should get one, get the other, maybe both. Basically just lay out what the similarities and differences are. So tonight we have the SH Figuarts, the Mandalorian Boba Fett figure, against the Star Wars The Black Series Boba Fett throne reversion figure from Hasbro. So you can see right off the bat, definitely a lot of differences, and I've definitely heard people preferring one over the other and vice versa. So let's get a look into the finer points of this. So yeah, fight.
Round one, fight.
So round one is aesthetics, and this is where the most obvious differences are, and obviously I do not know the source material or how much information either company had. However, it is worth noting that the SH Figuarts one was released first, and I think the Hasbro one was announced first, but the SH Figuarts one that keeps falling off was actually released first, and so that's a whole different thing. But right off the bat, we're going to talk right about color. And this was the big thing for me, especially when I saw the SH Figuarts released, was that this is entirely more accurate. I can just say off the bat, as a huge fan of this design, both colors and silhouette and all that, this is definitely more accurate. That nice robust shade of forest green-ish is just very, very, very nice, and the red, it just totally dialed in. Actually, the shades of red on both are pretty similar. However, the greens are completely different, and I'm not sure exactly how well this will come out, but there's definitely a more washed out, sort of kind of pukey green for the Hasbro one, and the helmet doesn't match as well to the armor itself. And part of that is just a different material, where this is the same material, so it's gonna be a lot easier to match that with paint. And then beyond that, going further on color, the big obvious difference that a lot of us noticed right off the bat, even with promo shots, was that, okay, we get the black bodysuit here, or undersuit for SH Figuarts. It's black as it was in the show. In every shot, it was pretty obvious. But the Hasbro one, it's a very dark brown. This is better than the Boba Fett in robes was, which was still inaccurate because, again, even the robes were black. But here in certain shots, you can definitely, it's almost black, so it's definitely close enough. And yeah, so that's colors. One last thing was actually the spats. And every shot I could find, every still I could find rather, and even watching it back, the spats looked black as opposed to this kind of light gray over the boots. So kind of another weird discrepancy. And beyond that, getting into finer details, obviously you're going to get more punched in with SH Figuarts. These are completely different price points. And so that much I would definitely not nitpick here. However, in terms of just straight up color accuracy, this is pretty much 100%. This not really even close, and that's kind of puzzling. I'm not really sure what the story is there, and I'm definitely not judging it because I do not know where that came from. If anyone knows, feel free to enlighten me in the comments, because I'm actually very curious as to how this happened. But yeah, going into just silhouette, both look decent. I'm definitely more of a fan of the Hasbro than I thought I would be. But I love the way the Figuarts looks. I think the proportions are just that much more accurate, and again, price point's going to factor into that a little bit more. So that is what it is. But beyond that, I guess the next major thing with the aesthetics is this kind of the hanging down piece. I wouldn't even call it a skirt piece, because I'm pretty sure that was part of it. Is part of the top coming out from the bottom of the armor. And technically, the Hasbro is more accurate. It was definitely on one side. I forget if it was front and back. I think the back actually kind of came over a little bit more, which is kind of what gave it more of this appearance. So this should actually technically not have as much in front. However, from a personal standpoint, I do prefer this look, which is definitely another reason I kind of absolutely had to have it. So that is what it is. And yeah, beyond that, again, I'm not going to nitpick the kind of tiny pieces here. just because of the nature of both of these companies and what they do. But yeah, I personally, for aesthetics, I don't think you can beat the SH Figuarts beyond the Hot Toys one, which is A 1/6 and B 100% accurate. So yeah, that is the aesthetics round, which I'm giving to SH Figuarts.
Round 2, fight!
Round 2 is accessories, and I'll admit right off the bat, this one is completely unfair because you're not going to beat the SH Figuarts. I mean, look. And again, that is a product of the difference in price point here, so definitely going to be a factor, you know. So, but that is what it is. But I wanted to take this chance actually in this round to actually highlight some of the positives of the Hasbro version, just because despite all of this, there is definitely a couple of points where the Hasbro one definitely has a one-up. First one is, and I didn't touch upon this in aesthetics only because this is an accessory for SH Figuarts, and that is the head. And I mean, as you can see, it just looks off. I mean, again, I see where they were going with it. I can probably imagine the source material they might have been working with to get to here. But even then, the product shots, like the prototype shots that were used for the actual artwork on the box, look a million times better than this. So something went wrong at some point. And then you compare that to the Hasbro version. Hasbro version just looks spot on, despite the like kind of over whiteness here on the scars. Just like the portrait's a million times better. So yeah, I mean, the Hasbro absolutely has a one up there. And then moving on to the helmet, which again, I didn't touch on aesthetics because I want to touch on here because the helmet is an accessory for the Hasbro version, where the SH Figuarts, it is the default head. And you know, the actual look of the visor is definitely more screen accurate on, actually I think the whole helmet is probably a little more screen accurate for the Hasbro, where the top of it's a little more flattened out. You get more of a round off here on the SH Figuarts. And not only that, but the kind of arcs here at the side of the cheeks are like straight up black on the SH Figuarts, and they're darker green on the Hasbro, which I think is actually the way it looks in the show. So again, a little more screen accuracy with the Hasbro, despite the color being completely wrong. So definitely worth, you know, pointing out and commending them for there. I mean, again, you know, I can't attest to whatever source material or what materials they were given for the source to work with. But yeah, so accessories overall definitely goes SH Figuarts. However, definitely a couple of like really good hits here for Hasbro.
Final round, fight!
Final round is Articulation, and here is where Hasbro actually gets a couple of really good hits in, and part of that is just the kind of nature of how both companies approach articulation in general, and part of that is also just the figure feel and as a whole. And you know, I usually I try to account for that in my reviews as part of articulation, though I don't always get around to it. But like, plastic feel is definitely huge, like something that feels good in the hand and feels like nice and fluid to articulate. And you know, I definitely point that out in my review for the SH Figuarts, where it's just, especially the arms, that feel a little stiffer than I'd like. And you know, you don't really want to kind of push it up or anything like that, because like it's running into a wall there, and you can probably heat it up a bit, and you can definitely play around with it. But like, you don't want to break it, especially with how hard this is to get at this point. But beyond that, neutral here, and you know, starting with the head, we get really nice range with the Hasbro, and part of that is the ball joint at the head and then the movement at the neck as well. So we can kind of come all the way around, and even with the helmet, none of that is hindered because the helmet doesn't run into this neck piece right here. However, for the SH Figuarts, that is an issue because this is definitely a little bit bulkier here around the neck, and the ball joint at the neck connecting to the body is a lot more shallow. So you get to a point and that just comes right out, which I'd rather have it do that than break. However, it does limit your range. So then coming down to the arms, and again, where it was like a little tentative there, actually they get probably about the same, but you kind of feel a little more free to kind of like push that a little bit. So they don't, neither of them really reach their T. And in terms of elbows, we get kind of just past 90 there. And pretty much the same on the SH Figuarts, even though we got this kind of hefty ball joint with some really deep cuts at both the bicep and the forearm. So they're equal there, but then we move into the gauntlet itself, and we actually get swivel on the Hasbro where we do not get that on the Figuarts. And that's definitely a point here for Hasbro, like just really nice addition, and something like that is going to come back in a second. Their torsos are actually the same, ball joint at the waist, ball joint at the waist. However, this armor piece is an overlay. So, you know, you're definitely getting decent range no matter what, even despite the two very different sculpts and kind of, you know, proportions. Definitely getting pretty similar range, which is pretty nice. Come down to the hips, and our Hasbro gets to kind of more of a V than a straight up, pardon me, straight up splits. And, you know, as we had seen, pretty much the same on the Figuarts. So really similar there as well. And then our knees are the same. They're pretty much, I think, the same range, because we're getting just past 90 there. And for our Figuarts, pardon me, for our Hasbro, pretty much the same. So again, equal again, just like definitely prettier on the SH Figuarts. But again, that's kind of their thing. And then the final point that really puts over, I think, the Hasbro is that it has boot cut. So you can, I'm not really showing that off really. There we go. So you can move that around. You do not get that on the Figuarts, unfortunately. So that definitely limits kind of where you're going with it. And so you're pretty much limited to using your thigh swivel, which is generous. However, it's definitely going to limit more of where you can go. And you get a toe joint on Figuarts, but you don't get it on Hasbro. But that's kind of been minimal. That some people can use the toe joint really well. I'm not very good at it, so for me that's kind of a non-issue. So for articulation, I actually got to give this one to Hasbro.
Finish him!
So let's finish this with some of my final thoughts with these figures. And you know, it might have been apparent, but you know, for my money and for my predilections, I definitely think SH Figuarts here is the clear winner. And again, that seemed a little unfair. They are very, very different price points. This is not too dissimilar to the Pentagon Junior Penta L0M PlastiCombat I did not last year, where, I mean, again, there are two very different price points. Here is probably even more disparate, where this is probably 3 times the price that this is. So, you know, take that as you will. I mean, again, I'm just kind of presenting these as they are, and these are the two current options for this version of Boba Fett in the scale. There is definitely a Hasbro Vintage Collection coming out that looks even better than this. Vintage Collection absolutely just kicking ass at this point. And we then have a model version of this version of Boba Fett coming out in a few months, I think, from when this is recorded here in 2022. So that is also worth taking into account. And you know, there's a non-zero chance I might actually want to do a comparison between this and the model version and kind of see how that looks. So you know, that might be coming up. But in any event, you know, obviously, you know, it's gonna be hard to beat this with between the accessories, the accuracy, and the sculpt and paint and all of that. And you know, whatever happened here with Hasbro, again, I don't know the specifics, so I do not fault this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that, you know, it is what it is, and you know, SH Figuarts definitely kind of brought it very hard. So yeah, I definitely think this is worth tracking down, even at in higher price, because we're secondary market and almost a year out, not a full year out obviously, but almost a year out. Might be more by the time you watch this video, but I definitely think this is worth the money, honestly. And I've seen people prefer the Hasbro. So it's all up to you, honestly. And yeah, so I guess given all of this, I hope that you found this PlastiCombat informative and somewhat entertaining. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and or sharing. And beyond that, if you want to throw a tip in my hat or help in any other way, there will be ways to do that in the description below. So please check that out. And with all of that being said, I hope you take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and most importantly, stay weird, simians.